Hello, Krista Ames here, and with another Art2GO kit for you all. We have Art2GO clay trees today. If you don't already know me, I'm the ceramics instructor at Gallery 1, and I'll be the one firing your pieces and getting them glazed so that you can come pick them up after you've made your beautiful Art2GO creation. Let's see what we have in the kit today. We have this roll of tools, which has got a piece of denim for you to work on, 2 paper towels that you're going to use with your cup that's also in here. So we're going to set those aside. We've got a popsicle stick, a brush for brushing slip, a fork and a skewer, and a rolling pin to roll out some slabs. We'll learn what that is. A sketchbook for you to draw any ideas in, as well as a pencil to draw them with. A bag of clay and your clay slip. And then as well as your paper instructions that you can follow along as we go through this video. I'm going to be following along as well. And we will start in the booklet. It also has some important information about clay if you'd like to read about what clay is, as well as the stages of clay as it dries, and some tools that you might have around your house that could be good for making. So look over those things, and then we are going to get started with our step number 1 down at my hands with our clay. So I'm going to pull out my canvas first, and I'm going to grab my clay. And our first step is to create a ball. So we're going to take our clay out of our bag, and we're just going to, it's already kind of in a ball, we're just going to make it a little bit more in a ball by patting it and smoothing out any creases that we may have on the surface. And then, now that we have this wonderful ball to work with, we're going to place our ball on our canvas that's on our table. And I like to stand up for this next part and just kind of push down on the clay to get it started, because we're going to be making a flat slab to work with. And I just like to get the clay started before we use our rolling pin. So notice how I'm pushing it out with my body and my palm. I'm not smashing it and making a lot of noise, because sometimes you won't get an even sort of cookie that you're working with. So see how I've got this nice even piece of clay that I've pressed out. Then I'm going to get my rolling pin, and I'm going to start rolling out my slab. And I am making sure to start in the middle and then roll to the edges. And I'm not over rolling my edge. And then I'm going to pick up my slab and I'm going to turn it, because right now it's kind of oblong. I want to keep it in a circular shape, starting in the middle and rolling out to that edge. And as I'm rolling, I want to make sure I don't go any thinner than 1/4 inch. If I go too thin, I might tear my slab when I go to slump it over my cup form. So still just rotating and trying to keep my piece a circle. There, I've got this nice circle. I've got about 1/4 inch. I think I'm ready to go. Before we move on, a little quick step that you can do if you want to is just smooth with the side of your popsicle stick. Smooth that slab out. Give it some texture if you want as well, if you want your slab to have a little texture on it. And I just like to compress all the platelets in the clay. And I also like to flip it over and smooth the back side as well. In case there are any little cracks, you want to smooth those out so that they don't open up while you're making. Okay. Next, I'm ready to cut my slab into a circle. Right now it's pretty much a circle, but maybe yours isn't a perfect circle. And to make something a perfect circle, a really easy way to do that is to find something that is already circular so that you can trace it. I have things that are a little too small, so I'm just gonna freehand it, but you could use like a bowl or cup and trace around it. But I want something larger than my cup, so I am going to freehand my circle because it doesn't have to be perfect, and you may not have anything circular around you. So I freehanded this circle just to get rid of a couple of the extra little bits, and I've just traced it into the clay to start with. And now I'm going to go back over that line that I traced, and I'm just going to press harder with my skewer. I'm pressing all the way down through the clay so that I can remove this. So you can see I'm pressing all the way through, and then we can see how that comes off. So I'm going to continue that around the entire slab and my traced line. So make sure you do this part, or at least cut something off, because you're going to need this clay, this extra clay, for making any extra things that you're going to put on your tree. So I'm really cutting this off to help give myself something to decorate my tree with. All right, we are ready for step number 5. Now that we have this nice circular slab, we're going to set it aside, and we're going to get our cup out and prepare our cup for draping over. So right now our cup has this kind of sharp edge right here. So we're going to take our paper towels, and we're going to take one of them and crumple it up and put it in this foot area so that we're protecting our slab from this sharp edge around here. So that's to kind of poof it up. And then this second paper towel, we're just going to place over top. This one is going to be our release paper towel, and you'll see how that works when we go to take our tree off. Okay, so our cup is prepped, and now we're ready for step number 6, which is taking our slab and carefully finding the center and draping it over our cup. So we're going to sort of push it down and make it have some nice, interesting folds, like the boughs of your evergreen tree you're making. We're not worried about the top being pointed yet right now, because we're going to do that step next. We're just doing this to try and get it started with our tree form. And I'm just kind of carefully rotating and pushing it in. I'm not pulling down. The more you pull down, the more you might have this start to tear around this edge. Okay, next we are on to step number 7, which is we're shaping and cutting. So we are going to carefully press the clay slab around the cup like we have. And then we're also going to find if any areas are way too long, you can cut them a little bit. So like right here, mine's getting a little bit misshapen, so maybe I can cut that off. It's really more for if you have like a really long piece that looks like it's going to be hard to set down on the table. So we'll now start to pull out our cup. So this is where this paper is going to come in handy. We're going to carefully pull our cup out. Notice how the paper is stuck in there. So then we're going to carefully just kind of work it out. And then we'll put our tree down, and we're going to start to shape the rest of our tree. So this is where we're going to start keeping that motion where we're pinching and shaping and rotating, and we're starting to pinch the top up with our fingers so that we get that point to our tree. And just kind of adding maybe a little finger marks or texture that you'd like to add, because your tree can have all these different textures on it to sort of symbolize the branches and needles that are on your tree. I like to have my tree have a nice point on it, so I'm just going to really emphasize that and then taper that down to the body so that I have this nice triangular shape with all these lovely ridges where the boughs are coming down. Okay, we are done with step number 8, so we're already on to step number 9, which is making decorations for your tree. If you're happy with your tree just like this, one variation is to just leave it, or you can actually pierce holes into your tree so that this can be a lovely little light holder. You could put a tea light here and then put your tree over it once it's fired, and little cast light will come out from your tree like a little candle holder. That's one option that you can do. Another option that I'm going to show you is I'm going to use my extra clay to make little decorations for my tree. Maybe I want to make a bird or something. I'm going to make a bow to go on top of it. So I'm going to grab a hunk of clay and I'm just going to start making the things that I want to go on my tree. I want to make some balls for all over it, and maybe some varying sizes. So I'm just going to make all these ornaments first, and then I can decorate the tree. And as I'm making them, you know, maybe you'll start to make more intricate decorations. Maybe you'll discover some of them should be a little smaller or a little bigger. So I've got all of these. I'm going to do a couple more balls and then I'll make my top of my tree. Okay, that looks good for decorations. I'm going to make my top. I said I was going to make a bow, so let's sort of just shape that out of clay. I'm going to start by making just a kind of heart shape. And then I'm going to use my skewer to pierce through to create holes there for my bow. And I'm pinching it once I pierce my hole so that I don't have any weird sort of shapes happening. And then I'm going to pinch down with what clay is left at the bottom of my heart shape. I can kind of manipulate my bow a little. And then I'm going to cut and split these two halves, or this bottom part into two halves, so that these can become little ribbons coming out. Okay, so then that is my top of my tree. So I'm ready to start attaching all my pieces. And with clay, one thing that you may not know if you haven't worked with it before is that clay needs a special type of attaching to happen. You can either use a fork or a skewer for this next step, which is you're going to be scratching and slipping and attaching each of your pieces that you've made. If you don't, this bow or your ornaments might fall off during the firing. So we have to do this extra special way of attaching. And what it is you're going to make these little scratch marks all along where your piece attaches to your tree, and then also where it's attaching to your tree. So we're making like a little Velcro area or connection area that's all roughed up so that the little pieces of clay can sort of knit themselves together. So I've got this scratched on the top of my tree, and I've got it scratched on my bow. I'm going to open up my slip, my clay slip, which is just the same clay you're working with more water in it. And I'm going to get my brush out and do a little painting on my scoring marks. I'm kind of dabbing it on. I don't want to paint and it out so that I keep my scoring marks intact. If I paint it, it will maybe scratch it. So now I'm going to attach it, the third part of this step. So I'm carefully just pushing that down into place. And then you can just smooth the extra slip off. And now you've got that bow on the top. Now I'm ready to just start attaching my little ornaments. So I'm just going to randomly place them around and pick spots for them to go. I'm scratching where I'm attaching it and what I'm attaching and dolloping a little bit of slip on there and then sort of wiggling it into place. If you can't quite reach the slip, you can always go around it with your skewer to get any extra slip out of the way. Or you can clean off your brush with your paper towel and sort of smooth that slip out. Two options for that one. Let's get all of our ornaments on and then we'll be ready for the last step. So I'm just going to keep placing these, scratching my ornament I'm attaching, and dolloping a little bit of slip on there, wiggling that into place. Making sure that my scoring marks are going in two different directions, not just one, and that they're nice and deep. Rotating that around. Let's get another one on the back. Wiggle that one on. And you can also make boughs that are coming out of your tree or some other ideas. Maybe you just want to make a really as realistic tree as you can make. Maybe there is a blue bird or a woodpecker or some small bird inside your tree. Maybe there's an animal hiding in your tree. Maybe your tree has a face and it's more of a cartoony tree and it can talk. Think about how you can make your tree as individualistic as you can make it. And maybe you decide you don't need all your ornaments. I'm going to put one more on and I think I'll be good. I made extra, so I'm just fine. Oh, I forgot to scratch the ball I'm attaching. Let's scratch that up. Making those deep scratching marks and putting a little dollop of slip on and then wiggling that into place. Okay, maybe I need just one more down there. I'm trying to turn my piece and think about where it needs a little bit extra something, just like when you're decorating a tree. Let's Sort of wiggle that one into place. And then let's put one right here and we will be done. You can just keep going and going. Maybe you want to make garlands that are going around your tree, which are those little things that swag around, or maybe you want to make tiny little lights. You can put as many decorations on this as you would like. All right, here's my last one. And I'm just gonna go over around each ornament and clean up those little bits of slip that are sticking out with my dry brush that I cleaned off with my paper towel. And that just really makes it look a little bit more finished. Okay. Now we are ready for the last step in this tree making, which is we are going to write our name underneath. So either right here, or if you can reach inside, I'm gonna put mine right here because I've got this nice big space that I can kind of smooth out. I'm gonna write my name in the clay so that I know which one is mine in case there's a bunch of trees at the studio that are being fired, or my initials, some sort of indicating marker. And then the really important last step is near your name or somewhere else on this bottom, I would like you to write what glaze option you would like. So glaze, we have a little description of in the back part of our pamphlet when we talk about what glaze is and how the piece is going to be fired at Gallery 1. So when you're done with your piece, you can bring it back in and put it on the shelf, and I will bisque fire and glaze fire your work. And I will glaze your piece according to what glaze number you put on here. We have 3 options. The first is a leaf green for your tree, which is number 1. The second is a spruce green for your tree, which is number 2. And the third is no glaze. I will paint my tree on my own. So that means you can paint it with any acrylic paint you can find, or whatever you'd like to, or maybe you just want it the clay body, or maybe you want to use shoe polish on it. Who knows? You can put a lot of different things on clay. I'm gonna pick number 1. I think that leaf green sounds really nice for my tree. So I'm gonna put a 1, and then most important, I'm gonna put a circle around it so that the ceramics technician, which is me, can know what is written on here, because sometimes a line is just a line, and sometimes a line is a 1, and if it doesn't have a circle around it, I don't know what it is. So when you're done, you will want to maybe keep this a little bit hydrated. Try and keep it wet. Don't wet it with anything. Just put it in a grocery bag or something and carefully transport it to Gallery 1 and put it on our greenware to be fired shelf. And then your beautiful tree will be fired and glazed and fired again. And I'll give you a call to tell you that it's ready for pickup. And that is our tree. If we want to come back and look at it from a front view on our video, we can switch our video, and here is our tree. So make sure to come by Gallery 1. If you have any questions about your tree, I usually work on Tuesdays and Fridays unless it's a holiday. So you can come in and ask me any questions and drop this off. I hope you are having a wonderful day, and thank you so much for taking the time to log in and listen to this video and make a wonderful piece of artwork with our Art2GO kits. Have a wonderful rest of your year, or a fantastic new year, whichever it is. And thank you, and I'll see you at Gallery 1.